Hello. Um, we notice among students who come to college that they don't know very much about the civil rights movement. Um, and one of the things they lack is an understanding of how nonviolence played a role in the successes of the civil rights movement. Those successes are not known very well. And I know that many teachers would like to teach the civil rights movement more thoroughly, but it seems like a choice between just mentioning Martin Luther King and the I Have a Dream speech on the one hand, or going really deeply into all the historical details on the other. And I think there's a middle ground that might be a little more practical for developing lesson plans. And what I would suggest is that um, classes focus on 5 campaigns that took place during the movement. They would be the Montgomery bus boycott, 1955-56, the sit-in movement, basically 1960, especially the movement as it unfolded in Nashville, Tennessee, where the student demonstrators were probably the best trained and best prepared of anywhere in the country. Third would be the Freedom Rides, which happened the following year, 1961. The sit-ins and the Freedom Rides really did not come out of Martin Luther King's leadership, although he was kind of an inspiration to those young people because of the Montgomery bus boycott a few years before. But they had in their hands a book that Dr. King had written called Stride Toward Freedom. And I suspect that that was one of the things that they were reading at the time. The fourth campaign to focus on would be the Birmingham demonstrations and boycott in and Birmingham, Alabama. Dr. King said was the most segregated city in the United States. That was his opinion, anyway. And the year was 1963. It was 100 years since the Emancipation Proclamation. And that was one of the reasons that Birmingham was chosen for a major campaign. Birmingham is important because it's from that campaign that we get the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And then the fifth and last major campaign would be the one in Selma, Alabama, the Voting Rights Campaign that resulted in the Voting Rights Act at the federal level. Now, each of these 5 includes a strong commitment to nonviolence that was really tested at least 2 or 3 times during the campaign. And nonviolence held. Dr. King was committed to it, or the demonstrators knew that they couldn't give in to violence, otherwise they would undermine their own work. So there was the commitment to nonviolence. There was a clear focus in each of those campaigns about what the aim was. It was to attack a segregated bus system in the city of Birmingham. It was to get the federal government to enforce the desegregation of interstate travel in the case of the Freedom Rides. It was the desegregation of first lunch counters and then department stores and then movie theaters and other public facilities in many cities across the states during the sit-in movement. In Birmingham, it was the desegregation of the downtown district and the opening of job opportunities to African Americans. And in Selma, it was voting rights, with very, very low numbers of African Americans were registered to vote in the Deep South. And in Selma, the percentages were very, very low. And it's pointed out in the movie called Selma that without being registered to vote, you cannot serve on a jury. So juries in the South were always made up of white people. And you couldn't participate fully in public life. It wasn't only the vote, although the vote is tremendously important, but it was also the ability to participate in these other things. So there's a range of things there to talk about with students. And if a teacher did a survey of all 5 of these campaigns, they would be giving kind of a framework for understanding the civil rights movement over those years, from about 1965 to 1955 to 1965. A lot happened in our country during those years, and some real accomplishments were achieved. Supreme Court decisions, major acts of Congress that benefit all of us still today. But somehow in school, students don't grow up with an appreciation of those achievements or why they occurred and how nonviolence played a role in making those campaigns successful. So there's a suggestion for doing a little more with civil rights in the classroom or in developing projects for students to work on. And I hope that some of you who are teachers will try those. And that if you're not a teacher, that may provide a little framework for you to do some reading about the history of the movement and the campaigns that made it up. If you found this informative, I hope you will subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. I'll see you next time, and I'll have a bit more to say. Thanks.